you had said that right, I would have known right off the bat that was in Germany. Yeah,
Yeah.
but like,
Yeah,
Cologne
the
is more
Kölner
sounds
Dom.
more English ish
Yeah.
or
Uh,
French or something.
the Kölner Dom is the largest cathedral in the world, and for a long time
Oh
was the
yeah,
largest building in the world.
I definitely saw a bunch of. I definitely saw some cathedrals and castles and stuff while I was there.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
and especially with cathedrals, Germany had this tradition where
I went to
basically that was how
Frankfurt
they. Uh,
and Marburg, places like that.
okay. Yeah, the cathedrals, that was how they showed their love for God, and it was basically a competition. Like who could build the biggest cathedral? Whoever built the biggest cathedral showed that they loved God more. That was how they got all these huge cathedrals.
Um, the other thing about cathedrals, the way they're designed, obviously a lot of Freemasons built them, but their design is designed to be tall. They're in such a way that when you look up, you get a sense of awe.
Yeah.
It creates a sense of like wonderment, expanded awareness kind of thing. It's like a change in consciousness, essentially.
Did you ever go to church in one of those cathedrals?
I attended a church service.
Now here's the
I just sat
question.
in this, saw what was going on.
Right. Now here's the question. When it
It
came to
was
communion,
during Christmas, I think,
okay.
event something like that.
So when it came to communion, did anybody run up to get communion?
No.
Because that happens sometimes, depending on what churches and cathedrals you go to in Germany.
Uh-huh.
Um, where there will be a certain group of people that will
Huh.
sprint full
That's
force
interesting.
to get to communion, and
As if it's like a virtue signaling thing.
yeah, or like
I'm
they
so
they want to get
pious
to
that
God
I'm
as
gonna get
fast
to
as
it.
possible.
I can't wait to
Yeah.
get to it.
Mhm. And then it's funny because there'll be that group of people that just runs, and then there's all the other people who all know this happens, and they just sit and wait, and they're like, "All right, go ahead."
Like, oh, you embarrassing me right now. um, but yeah, definitely not a good character to lead a movement of righteous if it's about righteousness and that
What
sort of.
about
But it still has Catholic elements in built into even Protestant uh,
oh,
viewpoints. It's
what
just
about
not they don't recognize that very well.
what about Martin Luther King Jr. starring Mel Gibson?
I didn't see the picture for that, but it sounds hilarious.
Yep.
Um, yeah, there's a lot to say about theology. We were talking about where the other guy might stand, what sort of role he could take that would be
Yeah.
fitting.
Did he head out on us, or is he still here?
I think he headed out,
Okay.
but non-denominational would have fit
Yeah.
for
Couldn't
sure.
handle all our pagan talk, our heathenry.
Oh, false gods. Can't stand it. It's like, why do they have this instinct, this Hulk smash instinct? You know,
Yeah.
imagery, idols, smash, destroy. What the heck?
Mhm. Now there's very few times.
Conflating an image
Mm,
with actual worship of the image. It's not the case in most cases, right? It's
yeah.
a symbolic representation of something to help you remember and reflect on what it is that you are worshiping.
Mhm.
It's veneration, or something like that. Same way they use it in Catholicism.
Right.
Um, yeah,
So
it's like, oh, you worship an idol. Well, come on.
Mhm.
That's not how it's utilized.
Mhm.
It's not
So
like
there's
the story, the story of I think it was Balaam. I don't know. There's some kind of stone wooden idol in the Bible story where it was it was tricked into making people think it was a real deity because the food was disappearing. Like it would put food there and then disappear or something like that. And then they were found out, and it's like, oh yeah, it was fake, and so we need to destroy it. It's just dumb reasoning.
yeah. Um, there's one thing that I've done a few times that I rarely use. Um, but I use it when I end up dealing with someone that's just insufferable
Hmm.
and just completely crazy on so many levels.
Uh huh.
For example, there was one person I talked to on Omegle that was from Pakistan.
I think
And,
I already know where this is going.
yeah, this guy
I think I
had,
know.
was of the opinion that everyone who was either black or Asian, uh, both of those races deserve to just die out and just be wiped off the map. And I was trying to talk to this guy and just trying to understand. And just everything he said was just hateful bullcrap.
Yeah.
And finally, I just said to him, I'm just like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna stop talking to you now. This is stupid. Beware of the raven.
I knew that was going there. It's like,
Yep.
start speaking in tongues or something, like
Yeah. Most of the time,
casting some spells that sound demonic.
yeah,
They'll get, especially Muslims will get freaked out
exactly.
by that.
Um,
They have what's called seer magic,
mhm,
SIHR. They believe in this sort of black magic sort of thing
yep.
involving sigils, specific way. Yeah. Like, almost like voodoo. It's very similar to voodoo,
Mhm.
where you draw like
Yeah.
an
So
image of you sort of draw a symbolic image of a person, and or you do something to it.
mhm. So I said that to that guy in particular, and he just freaked the fuck out. And it was satisfying. Like normally, I won't do anything like that. Like normally, when I end a conversation with someone, my uh,
But
usually what else?
but that can also have a unintended consequence of, hey, I met this pagan that was cursed me, with a spell from Shaitan.
Yep.
Uh,
I don't mind.
it could have the effect of reinforcing the belief, despite
Yeah.
just despite scaring him off,
Mhm.
and
I mean, that's why
that's something you
normally
don't want. You don't want to
mhm, al-
reinforce this idea
almost always
that
when I
pagans are
talk to
evil
people.
sorcerers or something.
Yeah, almost always when I talk to people, the statement I say is "May the raven fly over you peacefully."
Yeah, it's
That's
cryptic. It could sound cryptic.
mm,
It's, I mean, it's harmless. It's a harmless probably saying, but they could say, "Oh, I don't understand what that means. It must mean something bad."
well,
You
no,
know,
I always
but it's like a bless. It's literally like a blessing. What you're saying.
yeah,
May the raven fly over you, and wish
specifically
you,
may the raven fly over you peacefully, meaning
yeah,
may death
like
may death pass
peace
over
be
you
upon you.
without
It's just another way of saying
yeah.
peace be upon you. The way they say it.
Mhm.
Yeah. But no, you said it from a pagan perspective. Therefore, it's automatically evil with evil intent behind it.
Yep.
Come
That's
on.
why if people start playing those sorts of cards, I'll just start speaking in Gaelic.
And we already talked about the raven's significance in the Bible
Mhm.
with Noah and all that. There's actually more to it. There's actually more stories about it. I think even with the crucifixion, there's like birds that
Mhm.
witnessed it, and
Wouldn't
Therefore,
that be
you know,
something?
they wear black. They're black because they're somber or something like that. You know,
No, wouldn't that be
or
something
they
if we just had
squawk in a,
the?
they squawk in a particular way.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
no.
something like that.
I'm just imagining now, like
A lot of superstitious stuff.
a new book of the Bible is discovered, the Book of Raven, the
Yeah,
Gospel
no, but
according to
there's
Raven.
other places where it pops up. I'm just it's not offhand. I can't think of it. Yeah,
All these people just creeping on their conversation
it's
with
all
their
good.
microphones off,
It's all
just
good.
sitting there
They
and
can
judging.
nah. They're just relaxing.
Mhm.
I'm sure. What's going on, Dutch? Dutchy, the solipsist, team solipsism.
What wonderful way to name
Supreme's
himself.
definitely the troll here, though. You know, he's asking me, "Oh, you're casting demonic spells? What? Come on."
No, I would never
I said
cast. I would
I'm
never
saying
cast demonic spells.
you can pretend to cast a demonic spell in order to scare like an offensive, ignorant Muslim person away or somebody
Well,
else that's bothering
even
you.
so,
You know,
um, yeah, even
you can
so,
freak them
from
out
my standpoint, that's not a
very easily.
demonic spell. I don't
Yeah,
associate
and
with
it's not even
demons.
that. It's just they could interpret it that way,
Yeah,
misinterpret it that way, and you know, but then they could look it up and be like, oh, it wasn't actually a curse.
yep.
If they actually cared about what you actually said, instead of assuming, simply going off
Yeah,
an assumption.
I've never had problems when I've said "May the raven fly over you peacefully." I obviously have had problems when I've said "I've
Well,
made
you
the
know,
raven find you swiftly."
but you see the problem they think about that is, oh, it's a black animal, and black animals are inhabited by jinns like black dogs. They
It's
believe black
racist.
dogs. They believe black dogs are evil, specifically, and they're not even friendly to dogs in general. But
Mm.
rodents and dogs and certain animals, they're vehemently opposed to. And so
Mm.
when you say like a black raven, it's kind of fitting in that idea of a jinn that flies and you know,
Well, hey, even then
inhabits
though,
an
if
animal body or
even
something like
then though,
that.
even if it's a jinn, may the
Uh-huh.
raven fly over you peacefully. May the
Yeah,
raven leave you alone so that
yeah,
you don't get
yeah.
bothered. Yeah,
Not even all jinns are inherently evil. They're sort of
right.
neutral in Islamic bestiary, I guess you would call it.
Yep.
It's
Well,
funny.
were you
If you
here
look
when
at
I
the
mentioned
beast,
before
yeah,
about where the conversation goes sometimes?
yeah,
Then I talk about my relationship with that.
uh huh. It's funny to look at the biblical bestiary for sure. There's some wild creatures in there.
There are.
One of them,
I,
a lot of people aren't familiar with is called Ziz, Ziz.
oh, I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, I looked that one up. It only pops up in a certain translation, like a Hebrew translation or whatever.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's translated as
Ooh.
a bird or mountain something happening. I don't know. It's very vague. But Ziz is
Said to
this.
be large enough to be able to block out the sun with its
Yeah,
wingspan.
it's like a massive griffin beast, and it's right up there with Behemoth and Leviathan and
It's compared by modern scholars to the Sumerian Anzu.
yeah. So it has earlier uh, origins, precedent,
Mhm.
stuff like that. But of course, all of them do. You can find them all in these original older stories. Leviathan is referring to Tiamat,
Now, you know what I'm waiting for?
things like that.
I'm waiting for the gods and goddesses collectible card game and the corresponding anime.
Oh, I would love to see an actual recreation of a literalist true perspective of what the Bible is actually talking about, like these actual mythical creatures, and drawing upon Sumerian, the original, authentic Sumerian version of the story, blending that in to give this much bigger picture, context of what's going on. That would be epic. It'd be like, that was the movie. It would be like Clash of the Titans or something.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be almost indistinguishable from Greek mythology. Essentially, Greek mythology is a lot of similarities to Semitic mythology. In reality, I mean, you might have specific figures like Medusa or something, but there's a lot of them that do carry over through Armenian mythology. So Greeks got a lot of stuff from Armenian mythology, but they all over the place because they believed in syncretism, religious syncretism, blending together of all these different beliefs into one amalgamation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit into that. I'm loosely syncretist in the case that I am of the belief that everybody's experiences with the supernatural or spirits and things like that's their own
Mm-hmm.
experience, and the realities that come from it are reality. So I don't have a reason to necessarily discount anybody else's experiences until it comes
Mm-hmm.
to the point where they're deliberately trying to discount mine.
Mm-hmm. To say that somehow mine is truer, uh, you're falser because of some unspecified reason.
Hmm.
Oh
That's
man,
why,
that's
like,
more.
I get along really well with like
Because
Norse pagans.
the purpose of faith. As soon as a theist appeals to evidence-based claims, then they forfeit faith-based experiential claims.
Hmm.
You start to have a new metric for truth. Paganism, your experience is more direct. You're actually, going and experiencing what you believe to be the Morrigan, for
Yep.
example. Whereas I would argue that Christians are lying about what they've experienced to a large degree.
Well, and I would somewhat corroborate that because I spent 26 years trying to
I
feel
think they're fabricating a lot of
Christianity.
stories,
Hmm.
like,
I
Jesus appeared to me in a vision, or in my
mhm.
room and did this and did that. Well,
Well, and I
is that
fabricated a
really
story
true? Did that really
myself.
happen?
I
I don't think
fabricated a
so.
story myself when I was Christian. Or I was kind of on my way out, but at the time I was battling cancer,
Uh
and
huh.
so a bunch of people came together, my family and some other people they invited because they were going to have a healing session, a prayer healing session, and where they all got around in a circle and spoke in tongues and did all sorts of weird mumbo jumbo, and so I'm sitting there. And it's like part of me feels bad because it's like I didn't feel like anything was going on. It's like nothing's different.
You have that expectation that you don't want to
Right.
disappoint them.
Exactly. And so then I kind of
That's
made up
actually a
this
harmful
little.
thing in hospitals when people come
Mm,
to pray for them. they have this expectation of getting better. They want to please the person that's praying for them, and then they have this false expectation, and when it doesn't happen, they're let down, which leads to worse health outcomes because there's a lot of mind body connection between your health.
Mhm. Well, and the funniest thing is, so the story that I told, because they asked me like if I had felt anything, if I felt that Jesus was there with us or anything like that,
Oh, I see.
and I'm just like, yeah, I saw him. He was, he was, he was standing with you guys,
Yeah.
and they asked me where he was, and so I pointed at one of my nieces, and I said, oh, he was right behind her, and so that niece then just like, yeah, I thought I felt a hand on my shoulder. And
Oh,
now, out of all
playing
the
into
people
it.
in that immediate family, she's the only one that's no longer Christian.
Huh. So it's ironic, right?
Yeah, so we both kind of played each other.
She was playing into it to like go along with
Yep.
this
Mhm.
to make it like a uncomfortable situation go away.
Yeah. Well, no, it was also because it made her feel better. Because it was like, oh, it made her feel a little more special. Because now everybody looks at her and it's like, oh, Jesus was standing behind you. That's so cool.
Well, yeah, you chose her. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm the star now. Okay, cool.
Mhm. Yeah, no, she needed a little bit of attention, but
Don't we all like? Do we ever get enough attention as kids? We definitely don't feel like it. I think
yeah,
in a lot of cases.
yeah, especially with how parents are dealing with things today. It's just that's something that I am becoming more and more vocal about because I see more and more parents that not only go into parenting unprepared, but then are stubborn and won't go for help. They won't go for answers. And they start using this excuse that, oh, nobody really knows how to parent anyway.
Uh-huh.
That's bullshit. There are lots of people who do lots of study to figure
Yeah,
out what works and what doesn't. There's
yeah.
lots of information out there.
It's kind of
Go and get it.
it's actually so much information that it's daunting.
Yeah.
That that would cause somebody to be dismissal of it because it's too difficult to deal with to wrap your
Well,
head
and like
around
in
what.
any other sort of situation, somebody would say like, "Oh, I'm struggling to get there, or I'm having trouble getting over these hurdles." I'm like, "All right, cool."
But it's all
Everybody's
upon
got their own
me, right?
struggles.
I put
Mhm.
the weight of the world on
But
my
then,
shoulders when I
but
don't need
then
to.
once it starts involving like, "Oh, I have a kid," then I have uh, um, no respect for that. Once you get a kid involved and now their life is involved and you aren't prepared, either set them up in a situation where there's someone else that can take care of them properly, or
Yeah,
take the initiative to take care of them yourself.
yeah.
That's, yeah.
Neglection, it's an epidemic because we're always preoccupied with so many different things.
Mhm.
So many things that are vying for our attention and drawing us away from reality in the current moment.
Yep.
There's
Yeah. So that's
a lot to be said about that.
mhm. And one of the reasons it's close to home for me is because I was in that sort of situation.
Hmm.
And it's like I received uh, everything that I physically needed. I had a roof over my head. I had
Yeah, yeah,
food on the table. I got to go to school. School supplies were supplied for me.
yeah.
And
All your
but
basic, material needs are met,
right,
but
but none of the
you have some emotional need that's not being met.
right, none of the
Connection,
emotional needs, none of the cognitive needs, none of the
right?
social needs. And I never got to see that either because my parents didn't live a
Yeah,
healthy
you
life
don't even
between
have a
themselves.
model of what that should be. That's supposed to be like, right?
Right.
So you thought it was normal.
Mhm.
Like, oh, this is how everybody does it. They just, you know,
Yeah, and then I go to somebody else's house and I see how they function. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like,
did I walk into another like a different dimension or something?
yeah, and it's like, what are my parents doing? Like, this looks so great. Of
Yeah.
course, it's not necessarily
But
that
then,
great.
yeah, but then you have to also understand the perspective they're coming from and their maybe insecurity,
Oh,
and
my parents have a lot of issues, and that's one of
they're
the
not
other
they're not
things.
necessarily comfortable with may not be comfortable with forming close bonds
Mhm.
with anybody, or have difficulties that were passed on by their parents, how they
Yep,
treated them.
and
Lots of
that's one of my
generational issues and stuff. Yeah.
That's one of my big focuses. If I ever end up having a family, which I'd like to, but I'm freaking forever alone and have no clue how to deal with those sorts of situations. So we'll see what happens.
Well, it's spontaneous. You learn on the fly.
Yeah, but
And if you want extra advice, then you seek that out. Say, okay, this is the goal I should be headed towards in terms
mhm.
of how I should parent,
Yeah,
because
no,
there's a model that's superior to what I was given previously
mhm.
from my
Well, and
parents. Yeah.
that's the thing is that's my big goal going. If I get into end up becoming a parent, is that I am stopping.
You want to be the best parent you can be.
Yeah. Well, and my focus is to specifically stop the negative trends that have been plaguing my family for generations
Yeah,
because it's
yeah.
been more than one generation for a lot of this
It's like a
stuff.
cycle of trauma that never ends, in a
Mhm.
way.
And for me,
Micro trauma. I wouldn't say it's
yeah.
severe psychological
And the
damage. It's
only
just
way to get
it's
rid
just
of it,
little things that are irritating that
right?
never get resolved.
Yeah, and the only way to get rid of it is to recognize it and
Hmm.
say, I'm not going to play into that anymore. Stops
Right.
here.
Yeah, that's very powerful. That's like, you could equate that to very powerful magic.
Mhm.
Uh, it's like what I perceive as magic is sort of like psychological empowerment.
Mhm.
It's a way to change your inner, uh, um, what's the word, nature,
Mhm.
your inner direction,
Inner essence, yeah.
perspective,
Mhm.
orientation towards the world in a self-reflective, transformative way that is done through ritual in symbolic fashion, that has a
Mhm.
psychological impact which changes your frame of mind into the one that you prefer. That's going to be
Mhm.
helpful, and that's magic. It's almost indistinguishable from something supernatural, because it is something that you are invoking. You are summoning. It's literally like the language for magic applies to very um, aptly to psychological metaphors, or terminology. Well,
Mhm.
I want to banish these bad thoughts. I want to put these bad thoughts away. So there's like a banishing spell. Stuff like that. Um, it's all powerful psychological manipulation, in essence. That's how I see it.
Mhm.
Being able to take control of your state.
I
You
think
know,
in many ways that's true. There's a little more to it than that from how I see things, but I think
you
you're
could
on
do
the
that.
right track
You could
there.
say the same thing about prayer from a Christian
Yeah.
perspective, or
Well,
contemplation,
and
or whatever.
that's actually that for me. I identify them as the same thing. You
Yeah,
know,
it's just a different
there's
form,
no difference between miracle and magic.
right? It's a way of manifesting that which you desire in a health, in a health, ideally in a healthy way. Because if you do it in an unhealthy, cursing way, if you're, especially from a Wiccan perspective,
Mm.
it comes back to you threefold.
Well, and that's one of the things when I
So
talked to one of my
if you put
friends
out
about
something
this a while
bad, it
ago.
comes back to you to harm yourself three
Right.
times as bad, three times as worse. So as as
That
a karmic effect that you don't
that's one of the
want,
things I talked about to one of my friends is that I generally stay away from the idea of
It's a bad idea.
imposing
Yeah,
magic on the world,
yeah,
because
yeah.
the way I look at it is that the moment you take a
You
step
just you
forward and you
just you just
say,
want to you know enhance it or help it along what it's already
well,
doing,
it's
maybe,
the way I
right?
do it is I
In a
look
good
at it.
direction.
The way I do it is I look at it. We're all, for example, I've got every cell in my body is part of my body, and it's all connected, and information gets sent to to my brain from these individual things.
I think it's about 10
Um,
million cells that die per second.
yeah,
Crazy to think about that.
it is. But the point is that all these individual cells are part of my body. I am an individual cell of the universe, and so
From
instead,
a macro perspective,
yeah.
you could say, yeah, you're like an individual cell in a hive or something in a
Mhm.
superstructure of the world.
Right.
From that zoomed out perspective, yeah.
Mhm. And so basically, my idea is I do things like that through meditation. I focus on becoming one with
Mm-hmm.
the world around me first, and
Right.
then trying to manifest what uh, what naturally already should be there.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of trying to say, "Oh, I want this" or "I'm gonna do this," because
Uh-huh.
that almost always clashes with what
Ye
naturally is supposed to be there.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, you're trying to escape a reality to create a new reality rather than accepting how things are and moving on,
Mhm.
psychologically or whatever.
Right. So I
Coping with, dealing with it directly and coping with how things are.
right.
That could be a more healthy way of approach.
Right. And so that's why I had this friend that was just starting to get into like um, pagan rituals and things like that. They had a friend who
Hmm.
was a Norse or Asatru. Um, uh, they followed
Yeah,
that way of thinking, and so they were just showing him some basic rituals and kind of getting
yeah,
him into that. And so I voiced that concern. Um,
right. Yeah,
and
what I would say is, white magic or whatever should be used when you're in a just a lighthearted mood that is inconsequential. It's not trying to change uh, some fundamental thing that you're problem that you're dealing with. It's just something that you can use to for fun to enhance an experience, or something like that.
mhm,
It should be used lightheartedly in a non uh, severe consequentially way,
mhm.
if that makes sense.
Although I think in that situation I must have gone a little too far, or or not explained myself well, because the very next time I talked to that person, they were telling me how they were becoming a nun.
Like, you shouldn't use it to try to avoid problems, for sure. Uh,
Well, but it was just a
but
weird
you could
contrast
maybe use
because
it to help you deal with problems, to get
mm,
to cope with them, overcome them.
mm, yeah,
But yeah, you wouldn't want to escape necessarily. That's not a good strategy.
right. But it's interesting. This friend that I'm talking about, they started as a Catholic. Then
Hmm.
they, as a Catholic, they uh, joined the LGBT community. They became, they realized they were bi.
Hmm.
Um, and that was a funny situation because by that time I was kind of falling out of the Catholic Church, but she had come to me and she had mentioned this to me, and then she
Hmm.
waited like she expected some big reaction from me. And I was just like, okay.
Because she's still thinking that you're like this like a hardcore
Mhm.
Catholic or something,
Yeah,
or coming
this
from that
really strict
perspective.
Catholic, and yeah, so she expected some reaction out of me,
Like,
and I was just like,
I can't
okay.
believe it. Who thought you could do that?
Mhm.
Who said you could do
But
that? That's going against the church teaching. What did she expect? You're right. You
yep,
just say,
but
how
and
dare you?
in some
You're not my
sense,
friend anymore.
in some sense, I can
You can't
understand,
associate
how
anymore.
uh, in some sense, I can understand how people, somebody
Think
in
about
that situation might
Yeah, think
want
about how
to.
devious that is.
Mhm.
That a cult can separate friends based upon their association with this group, family members, jobs, people's entire lives. They have power over, who can be excommunicated, who can be, they can cause divorces, job loss, somebody to drive somebody to suicide. Um, so much power over a person's life that they can deal with in a callous way, based upon some stupid, artificial division that separates us as human beings. That is extremely devious. It's like holding a section of society hostage, so they can't interact in a civil, normal way with other people outside of that group. All right, that's very toxic, very very toxic. Like I want to associate. I mean, I would like to communicate and be acquaintances with all kinds of people, as long as they're not some hardcore criminal that's not good to associate with at all.
Mhm.
Yeah, or whatever. If they're decent people, normal people, sure, I would like to talk and connect with them across the
Mhm.
spectrum. But to say, oh, they can't associate or even be around you, that's deeply offensive.
Mhm.
Oh, your influence is gonna rub off on them. You're gonna turn them into this or that. No,
Yep.
that's not the case. And even if that was, you should still have tolerance towards people's free um free thought, their freedom of conscience and things like
Mhm.
that. If you're violating somebody's freedom of conscience, controlling what they can think or not think, that's devious for sure.
Yeah,
Um, Thought control, that's definitely a hallmark of a cult.
it is indeed. Uh,
And there's so much to say on that, yeah.
mm. Yeah, no,
Um,
but
so there's a something called the bite model. It's a guy
yeah, no,
named
I know all about that. Yeah.
Stephen Hassan. So B, what does the B stand for? Information, behavior,
Yeah.
information,
Behavior control.
thought, and emotional
Yeah.
control.
Mhm.
All kinds of yeah, power they shouldn't have.
Mhm.
That doesn't make sense from a human perspective. Normal, healthy relationship perspective. It's
Yeah.
not informed. It's not an informed consent. It's like you have subscribed to this, therefore we will now control this. Should control that.
Mm.
It's like, oh, I didn't read the fine print. Oh well, too bad. You're already in, sucker. You know,
Mhm.
you're already
Well,
in. You have to subscribe, or else if you apostate, we'll ruin your life. We will. excommunicate and then say bad things about you, you know, draw out every little bad rumor and spy they had within the church to say negative things to the community, who will then all shun you, right? All your friends and family associated with them that are still associated with them, suddenly they're your enemies. So you're like you're like divorced from your family, your job in many cases, your wife, like your whole life can be fucked up just from that. Just saying, oh, I don't believe this anymore. Oh, sorry, but now you're fucked up. You're fucked out of this whole community that pervades everywhere, right? That's extremely evil and pernicious. If
Yep.
anything is, you know.
Yeah, it was interesting to see the progression of this friend of mine. They went from Christian, recognizing they were bi, to testing out Norse paganism, becoming a nun.
How did
It's
that
like,
work?
yeah, I was just like,
Couple of different
where did
180s
that come
there.
from? Yeah.
Speaking of nuns, I was reading. What was it? I reading some about some scary ass nuns from where was that? Oh, I don't even think they were Catholic nuns. It's some kind of other type of nun. Uh, I forget. But yeah, there's definitely some scary nuns out there. I'd be concerned about her. What kind of path that could lead down.
Hmm.
Because it's not just Catholic priests, it's nuns that do some crazy shit, which is swept under the rug.
Hmm.
We don't talk about a lot of female abuse that takes place on this same type of level. It's kind of taboo in a patriarchal oriented society. But
Females are
you found out that
abusive?
there was some.
What?
Say what?
That females are abusive? What?
Yeah, or they certainly can be. I mean, on average, they're less so than males because of lots of reasons, testosterone and whatever. There is more social nature and something like that. But where was it? Someplace in the U.S. Oregon was it? I don't know. But they had some. What do they call it? Is it a monastery or is it where they have nuns? Nunnery. Uh,
Yeah. Well, sometimes
parish or
a cloister of nuns.
a cloister where they have like kids go there and stuff. Not an orphanage.
Trap.
Maybe it's an orphanage, uh, something like that. Well,
Daycare.
this is not an isolated incident, but this is one case where they found out all these nuns were abusing these kids in all various kinds of ways. Um, they would like push a boy out of a window, like from 2 stories up or something. Like literally, they would kill kids. Um, they would take them on a boat ride out to the middle of the lake, and then throw them out, dump them out for them to drown, or I think I even electrocuted one from like electrical fence.
Mm,
They forced the kid. They caused the kid to throw up and then eat his own vomit. Like
what the
some
heck?
nasty stuff. And then sexually abused other girls, probably boys too. I don't know, but um, some pretty nasty, vile stuff. and that was like a shocker,
Hmm.
to learn about that. But it happened at different places as well. So it's not an isolated incident. It's just something that's hushed up, probably by the church. They're not reporting things. They're not reporting things, and they're protecting others. Shifting them around, and so we don't even know. We don't even know the extent of what goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's not nearly
It's
as
I'm just saying. I'm
much
just
as.
saying it's freaking scary. So I would be concerned about
Yeah.
their
Well,
friends.
growing up Catholic and having a lot of experiences with nuns and priests, and uh, having conversations with lots of other people about it. Um, the the part that caused the problem is that it's not actually a very large number of people that are doing stuff like this. It's a very, very, very small number, but it's the fact that
Yeah,
the church wipes it under the rug and
yeah.
they
So
don't do anything about it.
some place in Scotland it happened. Sisters of Mercy, which was Ireland, looks like. Looking for the specific one I was talking about, though. German nuns dragged children to be abused by priests. That's not it, but orphanage. Where was this one? I think this might be it. Where is this orphanage at? Albany. Uh, where's Albany?
Left.
York. Yeah, I think it's New York orphanage. Um,
Albany, I thought was in Canada.
yeah, this Albany, New York, but maybe one in Canada
Oh,
too. I don't know. They certainly have a foothold in Canada, though. Roman Catholics,
yep.
for sure. Like, I think even the Secret Service sort of was part of that or something. I don't know. Interesting. It's interesting to think that we have a Catholic president now. Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't think he's involved with anything nefarious, but they certainly have a very powerful presence in the U.S. Catholics do. They're not specifically Roman Catholic. They're liberal Catholic types like Stephen Colbert. Extraordinarily wealthy because they have certain connections. Um, it's only faith in the U.S. that's subsidized by the government itself. So there's something going on there. I don't know. Well, let's see. Just wanted to read something from this. Let's see. Vestal Virgins. What? 1969. Pope Francis recently made a bombshell admission that some nuns were abused by priests and even used as sex slaves. Dozens of Catholics have come forward to report a tangential and just as evil phenomenon: sexual abuse by nuns. This is from New York Post. Uh, says this is the next big thing for the church, the biggest untold secret. Director at Survivors Network of Those Abused by Priests, SNAP, at a St. Louis-based advocacy group. Says in the past, victims were pretty much ashamed and afraid to tell their stories, but they are starting to come forward, and we are expecting that this may be as big as the priest abuse scandal. The group has heard from 35 people in the last several days. who claimed they were physically and sexually abused by nuns. I just wanted to give an example. They would fire anyone who was okay. They're demanding the Pope help victims of nun abuse and fire anyone who has covered up crimes by the clergy. We want them gone immediately. Let's see. And the other problem is it's so many years afterwards that it's hard to prosecute. That's the other screwed up thing. It has to, it has to be more recent in order to, which makes it more relevant, to deal with. There's like a statute of limitations or something. Let's see. Schools, yeah. Catholic schools. Grievances. Oh, well. Quote, she took my face into her two hands and kissed me all over my face. She recalled of the encounter in a convent she would not name. And then I just remember leaving. I felt the same way I felt as a child. I felt lost. I felt abandoned. I felt confused. I felt alone. Finnegan said she also felt alone and was unable to speak of the abuse she endured by Sister Mary Juanita, who, quote, vowed to chastity as she raped me. Let's see. User. Even after they die, a person, the nun or whoever dies, it's still an unresolved thing that they can never deal with. They can never get closure on. Very difficult to get closure on because you can't confront them anymore. You can't. You can't get that reply that you're looking for. Like, hey, I was sorry I did that. At least, right? Yeah, there's some crazy examples, right? Finnegan said she has suffered PTSD and anxiety for most of her adult life and has turned to prayer and research on sexual abuse to try to forgive what was done to her. She will not describe in any detail how she was raped. Of course.
All the juicy details.
You don't want to go into the details. It's reopening old wounds and things like that. Things that don't need to be talked about sometimes.
Who are we talking about?
People that have been abused by nuns.
Nuns? Damn, dude.
Yeah, Catholic nuns.
I'd pay to be abused by nuns. Goddamn.
What?
Ooh, mama.
No, not a sexy nun. Halloween.
Those words.
Not a sexy Halloween nun.
What is the word for when two words contradict one another? Fucking oxymoron. Yeah, sexy nun. That's an oxymoron. Wait, no, never mind. I fucked it up.
Yeah,
that's
an oxymoron.
Fucking jumbo shrimp. No, fuck. All right, I've embarrassed myself. Goodbye.
No problem. But yeah, it's not that isolated of an incident. It's hundreds of children at like a single orphanage or something. Crazy. And then it's gone so under the radar for all this time. Unthinkable. Anyway, sounds like you're falling asleep, Celtic. Celtic, wake up. He's asleep. It was too soothing. Soothing voice, I guess. You with me, Andy? Andy from Europe. The red-pilled, non-dom theocrat. What do you make of all this? Celtic. Yo, Celtic. Wake up, bro. Celtic, wake up. There's a fire. The smoke alarm's going off. Beep. Beep. That'll just give him bad dreams, right? Oh well, it's been long enough. Time is it? Past midnight. Let's see, I think I can call him, right? Celtic, snap out of it. When I count to 3 and snap my fingers, you will awaken. 1, 2, 3. You are now awake. Coming slowly back. No, I don't know how hypnosis works. I wish. That'd be cool. All right, well, have some pleasant dreams, Celtic. I will catch you on the flip side. Adios.